Hello folks, and welcome to the Lair. Today, we'll have to take a little detour from the events concerning the artifact cycle and analyze what happened to Dominaria and the people inhabiting it after the ruinous Sylex blast. To do that, we will gloss over 2 articles and 4 different books, including an entire cycle, over the course of 2 videos. The events we'll be referring to today are narrated in the Colors of Magic anthology, edited by Jess Lebo and published in 1999, while the technical insights of the topics we'll cover will come both from this anthology and from the Ice Age cycle, which we will explore more in detail next time. While these stories do not necessarily add a lot to Magic's world as a whole, there's still great follow-ups for anyone who's read the Brothers' War. That is because they're supposed to take place right in the wake of the Brothers' War, precisely to show what happened to Dominaria after the Sylex blast, while also providing crucial understanding of some of the base mechanics revolving around the Magic system and how it works. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Although unaware of that, by detonating the Sylex on Argoth, Urza permanently altered Dominaria's climate system and plunged the entire world into an ice age that lasted for 2,500 years, from 450 AR to 2934 AR. The 4 centuries between the blast, in 64 AR, and the true beginning of the Ice Age, in 450 AR, are referred to in Dominarian historiography as Dark Age. The results of the blast, needless to say, were devastating. Civilizations were destroyed and countless lives were lost. Worse, perhaps, was the loss of the knowledge those civilizations had gained. Across Dominaria, once mighty empires and centers of learning were reduced to little more than squabbling tribes of primitives fighting over the meager supply of plants and animals. During this time, Dominaria's climate progressively became colder and resources scarcer. In every land, despots and tyrants would easily take advantage of the difficult situation to gain control over the population and rule it through fear. Moreover, because of how the Brothers' War went down, the use of magic was in this period completely forbidden by the Church of Tal, a widely followed religious order on Teresiare in the years following the Brothers' War. It was a time of corruption and prosecution. Mages had to practice in secret and, had they been discovered, death would have been their punishment. Among all the stories that can be found in the Colors of Magic anthology, there is one that is more interesting to us than the others, and that is Loran's Smile by Jeff Grubb. You can find a direct link to the story in the description below, and I highly suggest you to have a look at that, as it is an overall very nice, telling, and emotionally powerful reading. In the description, you will also find another short story alongside this one. Its title is The Mana Bond, and it holds some meaningful insights into the mechanisms of mana and how it works. I suggest that too. Back to Loran's Smile, the plot is really simple. It picks up the story of Feldon, the artificer from Theresia City that we mentioned in the last video, 10 years after the end of the Brothers' War, as he attempts, through artifice and the 5 colors of magic, to bring back from the dead an Argivian scholar whom he loved, named Loran. Loran had during her life joined the scholars in Theresia City and co-founded with Feldon the Third Pact, an alliance of magic users, historians, intellectuals, and artificers from across Teresiare that sought neutrality in the war between Urza and Mishra. Despite being very linear, the story is of crucial importance in understanding some of the core mechanics of Magic's world, because a large part of it actually revolves around Feldon encountering users of the various colors of magic and learning a different lesson from them each time, essentially building up an explanation of how magic and summoning work throughout the whole book. I want to thank Alzentar, Nev Mizzet, and the Loxley from Reddit, whose comment on a related thread have actually been very useful in helping with my own understanding of this system. "She isn't real," cried Feldon, spitting out the words. "I rule in the blue," said the sorceress, "and blue is the stuff of air and water, of mind and imagination. I cannot bring back that which is gone, only create its image. If you want her truly back, you must seek another." "Who is this other?" asks Feldon, and the sorcerers hesitated. Again Feldon asked, "Who is this other?" The sorceress looked at him with cold crystalline eyes. "There is a swamp further north. He who lives there rules in the black. He can bring back what you seek, but be warned. His price is higher than mine." In the world of Magic the Gathering, magic is based on memories and past experiences, and a player's library represents all the memories and experiences that they have gained on their journey so far. Okay guys, follow me here because things are about to get a little messy. To help in finding our way through this mist, I will often quote back to Loran's smile to better understand this system. Magic is the skill of generating mana, a particular form of energy obtained by channeling a certain kind of memories and of harnessing this energy to physically recreate and give shape to other memories. Lands represent the places associated with these memories, while the spells a planeswalker, or a player for that matter, casts are the representation of those memories. The old man sighed and raised a hand towards the fire. He unlocked a part of his brain that held the memories of the mountains around them. He pulled the energies from those lands, as he learned to do in Teresia City with Drafna, Urkil, the Archmandite, and the other mages of the Ivory Towers. He concentrated, and the flames writhed as they rose from the logs, twisting upon themselves until they finally formed a soft smile. Loran's smile. It was the most that he could do. In the multiverse, anyone can be trained to use magic. However, planeswalkers have a unique versatility to it because of how easily they can gain experience from a variety of planes and other realities. In this framework, creature spells appear to be quite unique. In fact, when a planeswalker casts a creature spell, they do not truly summon that specific creature from somewhere else in the multiverse. Rather, the idea is that every creature leaves a trace of some kind in the ether found in blind eternities between planes. After having encountered this trace, planeswalkers are able, through memory, to conjure up constructs made of mana that are exact copies of any creature that has existed in any given time somewhere in the multiverse. "When you cast a spell using fire," explained the scholar, "I believe you do not create fire. Rather, you take the magical energy and form it into the shape of fire, which then does your bidding. It is for all intents and purposes fire, but it is made of magic." "But what when I use fire?" asked Feldon. "Or when the hermit calls a great worm?" The scholar waved his hand. "Different uses for the same tools. Yes, in those cases it is real fire and it is a real worm, but the magic alters it. For the moment, assure that you can create something made of magical energy." "If you study me," he said, "you would be studying that which makes me a scholar. Therefore, you could call at a later time that part of me which is my scholarliness and rely on its advice." With non-legendary creatures, this translates into an ideal or archetype version retrieved from the planeswalker's memory of whatever creature they're summoning. So, when a planeswalker is summoning a Llanowar Elves, for instance, they're actually creating a construct of the general idea of a Llanowar Elves that they have stored in their memory, rather than calling on any one specific Llanowar Elf. When summoning legendary creatures, things are a little bit trickier. In this case, the planeswalker has to create a much more detailed construct of a specific being, molding it with precision and care. This is why only one copy of any legendary creature can exist at any given time, because the degree of similarity between two copies would be so high that it would basically make them identical. This reading of the creature summoning system also plays well into how different versions of the same legendary creatures can actually exist at the same moment. That is because they would represent two different memories of the same individual as they were at any two or more different points in time. This interpretation of the magic system is interesting because it implies that to use magic, planeswalkers and spellcasters in general have to adopt a remembering mindset, whereby they start replaying random moments of their life through their minds, and because at the beginning of combat they've just started to remember, they have little mana to work with as well. But as time goes by and they remember more and more things, they have a lot more resources and memories to work with, just like cards in the game. When Feldon opened his eyes, Loran was there. She was perfect and whole, and as young as when he first met her at the gates of Theresia City. "You're not her," he said at last. "No, I'm not," she said, her voice in the lilting Argemian accent he remembered. "We both know that, and you know that I could be nothing less than what you remember of her. You remember her as being honest and strong. I am the sum of her, taken through your feelings. I am what you remember." "You are memories," sighed Feldon, "and though you are pleasant memories, I must leave you as such. If you are here, you're no more than the automation in the garden, an unliving, an imitation of what was. I am sorry. I went through so much trouble to bring you about, but I know that I cannot keep you." Okay, so with all of this in our back pocket, keep in mind that what follows is pure speculation. This interpretation of the magic system as I presented it to you would also explain why so many cards causing players to mill their decks are thematically related to amnesia, because a planeswalker's library is technically that planeswalker's long-term memories and subconscious mind too. Following this line of reasoning, the hand of a player would be their active thoughts, what they're currently thinking about and planning to do in the next few seconds in a real-time Planeswalker's duel scenario. Indeed, discard spells that target this area of the game are usually related to trauma and shock. This is also why a player's hand is capped at 7 cards. Because according to Miller's law, that is the maximum number of things that a human mind can hold in its short-term memory at the same time. And this would also explain why the cards that temporarily or permanently increase hand size tend to be books or something that is somehow related to the mind. Finally, when a planeswalker empties their library, this represents their thoughts running out, their mind going blank. Therefore, they lose the duel as they are reduced to a deranged or comatose state. Cards such as Laboratory Maniac revert this as the planeswalker using it embraces madness to somehow get ahead and win the battle through it. Of course, not every summoning always goes according to the plans of the summoner. Feldon took a deep breath and called upon the powers of the land. He thought of the nervous scholar in his thick spectacles, rummaging relentlessly through the decaying paper and rotting vellum. He tried to call a being that summed up the nature of the creature in one place. There was a pause, and then an identical duplicate of the scholar appeared. No, not identical. It was taller, and its flesh had a Ruttler hue, but it was thin and nervous and had thick spectacles and a knowing manner. The scholar, the real one, walked up to the created being and looked over his glasses at it. The duplicate did the same. Feldon was amazed. "Is it real?" he choked out at last. The scholar reached out and touched the quasi-duplicate, and the duplicate touched back. "Feels like it," said the scholar. "A lot of the little details are wrong, but you aren't just summoning me. You're summoning the essence of my meanness as a scholar. You can keep this me around by keeping that part of your mind aware of me, but it isn't me, that is." Now that we all have a good grasp of how the magic system works, the next question actually comes natural. What about the colors of magic? Well, memories vary depending on the individual, and so does the way of channeling it. Each of the 5 colors represents a set of beliefs and principles. A color's philosophy explains how devotees of that color see the world, what dreams drive their actions, and what resources they have at their disposal. Speaking of colors, the Colors of Magic Anthology is also quite interesting for its depiction of, well, the colors of magic, and each of the 5 colors is given a short introductory description before the first story regarding that specific color. White, for instance, is presented at the very beginning of the book as the color of temptation and innocence, of purity and civility. "Green calls to the living," he said. "Black calls to the dead. Blue creates the shadow of life. Red consumes, and that's very important as well, because you must often destroy before you can build. I study, and the magic I wield is white, which is the magic of comprehension and understanding. As you can see, the color pie is represented by a circular pattern, and a stylized version of it can actually be found on the back of every Magic the Gathering card. Colors that are represented adjacent in the wheel supposedly share relatively similar ideologies and are thought of as allied colors. In contrast, those on opposite sides of the wheel have radically contrasting views of the world and are referred to as enemy colors. Each color then carries strengths and vulnerabilities, and planeswalkers can offset the latter by tarnishing themselves with spells of other colors. This versatility, of course, comes at a price, in this case, the consistency of that spellcaster's mana base. Last but not least, we need to keep in mind that planeswalkers and other characters of Magic's lore in general are fully developed and complex individuals who are not simply defined by a graph or a set of predetermined attributes. What I mean is that although, for instance, organization and selflessness are typical attributes of a white philosophy, an organized or selfless character is not automatically white. Rather, a character that values organization and selflessness could be white, but also red or black for that matter. An example of this could be the organization required to mathematically design the destruction of Void, or the efficient cost targeted obliteration of Terminate. What is true for white is also true for other colors, of course, such as green interdependence clashing with the self-concern showed in the form of life gain. But that does not make green or white characters automatically selfish. Another thing to keep in mind, just like in our world, is the huge power of influence. If non-black characters, for instance, spend a great amount of time near black characters, they will likely start doing some things that could be considered selfish or outright black. This does not necessarily make the former group black, as countless variables might have influenced them. For instance, they might have suffered peer pressure, or they could have been charmed by concepts of immortality. They could be overseeing the implications of their actions, or they could even be in the process of reconsidering their own views of the world, making a partial or complete shift towards the new color. Finally, influences also come from bloodline, race, and occupation. If the individual in question is a goblin from the Azorius Senate, a white and blue guild from the plane of Ravnica, they may be blue-white, but they will also most likely have a red influence tied to their race, and that will certainly surface in their action and thoughts. Usually, when an opposing influence surfaces, its function is to tone down and dilute the other colors of that specific individual. For instance, a black-red character with a white opposing influence will be a much calmer and softened version of any pure black-red character. Ultimately, just like in real life, there are no one-sided characters in Magic's world, and each individual will be different from the others depending on their experiences, beliefs, and choices. Thank you for watching this episode of my Magic the Gathering Complete Lore series, covering the base mechanics of the Magic system and how it works. Next time, before going back to the artifact cycle, we'll be looking at the story of Joda, a powerful archmage from Tereziare and protagonist of the Ice Age cycle. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, and comment in the comment section down below, as it really helps me out. My name is Octopus, and I will see you in the next one.